All right, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to have you on right now because this can be like kind of a power play for you guys, a 1-2 punch. And this is something I've been waiting to do for a long time. David and I have been talking about doing this for so long, and I've had him on the podcast, for the Money Ripples podcast. I know many of you guys follow that here, but the biggest reason I want to have David on is because nothing is so important in business as it is to have profit. And I know that could be argued, but the truth is this: is that business only exists if you have profit. And I know you hear me talk about things like passive income. You hear me talk about things like financial freedom, time freedom, and even talking about things like infinite banking, which we will talk about today as well. But the biggest thing I want to be able to have on is let's get David here to talk to us about how do we really create and make it to where we have profit first, where we have freedom in our own business versus being a slave to our own business, becoming the lowest paid employee. That's exactly why David's here. So, David, let's rock and roll. Let's give it to him. Let's see what we can kind of give him this 1-2 punch here about, get more profit and then what to do with that profit.
Awesome. Now, I appreciate that introduction because I do. I've been excited for this too because this really, I feel like, is the 1-2 punch. Because how many in here, I just want to, if people can hear me and actually use the chat, if you're driving, do not use the chat. But if you can, put in, or have you either heard of Profit First or are you doing infinite banking currently? I'd love to just know with people live here if you're doing one of those two things or have heard of them or where you stand. Because like this is going to be the 1-2 punch. This is going to be the like I want to make sure you're making profit, and then how do you turbocharge that profit, through infinite banking? And even if you are on one side of the equation or the other, it's like how can you get either better with the one that you're already doing, or like if you don't have the other side of it, how can you incorporate that now? So doing infinite banking, but haven't heard of profit first. Awesome. Okay, well, even better because I think I can help you turbocharge your infinite banking even more with having this type of system in place. Is anyone else bold enough to put something in the comment? I've heard of Profit First. Awesome, good stuff. We are early in our infinite banking. I've heard of Profit First. Okay. See, this is what's fun because now I get to actually get in here, jump in, and help you with a system to keep more profit. Chris and I have also made a agreement with each other. We won't be more than like 15 minutes. I'm going to try and hold to that as much as infinitely possible too, but humanly possible because this is where we want to give you the bare bones. Here's how to get started. So it's not going to have a lot of fluff. Not that we talk about fluff, but you know what I'm talking about. You get on a webinar and always people have the fluff. I'm even fluffing a little right now. But this is where now I want to just dive right into it. Seems like a lot of people have heard on the infinite banking side or have heard maybe a profit first, but haven't incorporated it. Oh, thank you for that answer. So let's see. You know of both, but not using either. Doing infinite banking, and I've heard of profit first. I read the book and early in my IB. Awesome. Well, then here we go. This is now I'm going to give you the system. And we did title this. I'm going to share my screen. Infinite Profit. I love this. I love this title. Chris came up with this. It's such a great one. The simple path to build wealth now with profit first and infinite banking, because this is how you can turbocharge either side. Whether you want more money in whatever you're doing day to day, whether you have a W-2 job, a business, or whatever it might be that generates your cash on one side, then the other side is the infinite banking as well too. And like, how can we be the most efficient and how can we use that and maximize the profit that we do have? This is why I love that we're doing this together. And I'm going to just dive right into it. Here's what it's all about. If I had to sum it up, this is where if people make money but feel broke, that's when we incorporate profit first the most. Like I'm making all this money and I have a little bit maybe to save or to put into, the infinite banking side, but man, I wish I had more, or I wish I knew what to do with it, or I wish I had a system that automatically helped me with this part of the business. That's what I want to help you with. Literally, I think I have like 4 other slides besides this. So it's going to be short on my end to where it's just these are the bare bones brass tacks, like just getting this up and running wherever you are. And like I said, this is not just for business owners. You could do this in your personal life. A lot of people take the profit first system, not only in business, but they also incorporate it in their personal, system as well for the cash that comes in. You know why? This is literally just a cash flow management tool that makes it real easy to know where every dollar is going. That flows through your fingers, business or personal, whatever it might be. So let's dive into it real quick. If you're on this call and you have any interest in money, I would highly suggest playing the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki. Cool tip here, like, or a cool fact, Robert Kiyosaki of Rich Dad Poor Dad fame created this game and then wrote the book to sell the game. But the book Rich Dad Poor Dad obviously eclipsed this game. But this is such a great game visualization of what most people feel. On the left hand side, they look good, but they feel broke. You know why? Because in this game, there's literally 90% of it is played in that little wheel in the middle. Most people in their business and in their W-2 jobs, whatever it might be, they're living either paycheck to paycheck. If you're in real estate, it's deal to deal, whatever it might be. You're trying to land on those little green spaces because the green spaces give you big or small deals to move for passive income to the financial fund track, or like the financial freedom track, that outside track. And so many of us get caught up in doing the deal, making the sale, making more money, more income, and we never learn how to keep the money systematically. Here's the other big thing is too, no matter what industry you're in, if you have your own business, if you're in real estate, if you're a blue collar millionaire, if you're out there doing whatever it might be to generate the cash, all of us think that whatever our industry is the game that we're playing. I'm telling you right now, the game you're playing is the game of money. We're all in the same game, but we haven't learned the fundamentals of money. And like, how do I set up the game to win? And how do I make sure that I'm winning consistently? So honestly, Profit First is a simple system to be able to know where your money's going, that if you know how to make it, I'm going to impart to you today at least the first steps of keeping more of it as well. So that way you can at least have like a fighting chance of keeping what you make. So here we go. It's going to be 3 short points, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chris on the infinite banking side. Because if you have this part, I endorse Chris 100%. I use infinite banking. I use Chris. Like, this is where I believe in it so much that I'm so glad I have Profit First to make sure I can systematically keep more money and then put it into the most efficient vehicles and the best places to park my profit and all this stuff that we're going to talk about. So number 1 on this, let me get over here. Find what you need to keep. This is what I tell everyone anytime I talk. Most people go into business or their job and they don't have a good end goal. You know where they build their business from and what kind of business plan or what kind of plan they have for their money? The hope and pray plan. Dear God, I hope I make enough, and then I pray there's some left over sometime. Like maybe if I sell off in the future, if like a big payday one day, or like all this, they're always looking for someday that money. And what I tell people for number 1 is find what you need to bring in on a monthly basis. Have you ever sat down to count the cost, to say, what do I really need and want from the money that I'm bringing in? If you have a business, it's like, what do I need to bring home from the business to pay my bills? But then secondly, what do I want from the business? Why did I even start this dang thing? That's where I need you to get very clear. I do give a cheat sheet as well too of like how to find this number, because a lot of people just need help of like, how do I even figure this out? But since we're going quick and there's 2 of us, I want to at least give you the overview, the framework of this system, because just like I told you, you're playing the game of money. I want you playing your own game and not someone else's. So many of us get caught up in the, oh, look what they're doing. They're doing a bunch of deals, or they're making 7 figures, or they're doing, like 6 figures a month, or whatever it might be. And we get caught up playing someone else's game instead of our own. Number 1 is I need to not only know that I'm playing the game of money, I need to make sure I'm playing my game. What does playing my game look like? What do I need monthly? And what do I want monthly from the business? The need would be like, how do I get out of my rat race and what puts my head above water? And like, what's my current lifestyle look like? Where my want would be like, why did I start this thing? Did you start, you going down this road and doing infinite banking and maybe starting a business or having a high dollar income job and going to college and doing all the things? Why did you do all of that? Well, that's where the need numbers usually doesn't cover the why. The need number just covers the eat and the roof over your head. So finding those 2 numbers, that's its own. I could spend 45 minutes on this one just going deep into this and helping you finding that. That's why I'm going to give you that thing at the end. And here we go. Number 2 is the system. Here is Profit First. Profit First is all those other books you've heard of before. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like Pay Yourself First, or The Richest Man in Babylon, A Portion of All I Have Is Mine to Keep. Like all the books that have told you that you should pay yourself first in some form or fashion. Profit First takes it a step further and says there's a system to do that. So that way it's not just words on a page, but I can actually make more money and then keep more of every dollar that I make. This is, if you're playing the game of money, how to set it up to win. Honestly, it's really simple. If you're on this call now, you probably, since you're financially, if you're on this call, you're financially savvy, even because of the title and why you're here. So you probably have heard of Dave Ramsey, whether you love him or hate him. Like there's definitely usually two sides of the fence there. He's made the envelope method very popular in the personal finance space. I love that principle. Whether you agree or not with all of his philosophies, I do agree with this because this is a core principle of money. If you tell money where to go, you can control it versus where you're just like, I have no idea where it's going, because most people in their business or in their personal life have one big bank account called the black hole account, where money goes in and it gets sucked out, never to be seen again. And I don't want that for you. That's chaos. There's no order to that. I don't want that. I want you to know where every dollar goes in your personal life and in your business, so you know and can name every dollar. There are 5 fundamental accounts for Profit First. I'll give them to you very quickly. This is also going to be a part of the cheat sheet as well too. So if I fly through this and you're like, man, I wish you'd go back, I do give this as like, here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the ones to set up. First, I call the golden trio. These are the ones that help you keep more money: profit, owner's comp, and owner's tax. And profit correlates to your want number from point number 1. Like, why did I start doing what I'm doing? The owner's compensation is all about, am I paying myself consistently? Am I keeping what I really need to keep to put the food on the table and to maintain my lifestyle? And then, especially if you own a business, that third account, the tax account for you, will save your butt. It's a peace of mind account. So that way, from every deal or from every sale you do, a little bit goes into the tax bucket, and then you can pay taxes at tax time. On the flip side, there's 2 other accounts. There's income and OPEX. Those are 4 and 5. Income would separate out all the money that funnels into your bank, and then OPEX would be everything that goes out of your banking system. So it's like you've got those 5 fundamental accounts to know what's coming in into income, what's going out via OPEX, and then the golden trio is there to be able to keep more. Thus, profit first, because you know where you're supposed to transfer first from income? The golden trio, making sure you're keeping it and you're healthy. You're healthy as a human, or you're healthy as a business, making sure you're getting paid what you need to and you're keeping what you need to. That's setting up the wealth system. If you need a rehash of that, I promise, like I told you, you will get that download that just tells you, here's the accounts, what he went over, and gives you a little bit more in depth. I have one more point, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chris here in a minute or two, and then he's going to go into the infinite banking side. The third point is, once I have it all set up, how do I win consistently? If I told you number 1 is all about setting the game up, but number 1 is all about making sure you're playing your own game, right? It's making sure you're pointed towards not just the hope and pray plan, but what do you need to bring home? Number 2 is all about setting it up so that way it points towards your need and want number, especially that profit and owner's compensation account. Number 3 is all about, what do I do consistently with the money? And I'll tell you real quick. Weekly, what would I do with the money? I would transfer it from the income account to the rest of the accounts. I give you a nice little chart too at the, from the cheat sheet of like how much should go into the different accounts and what are the different percentages. If I get $100,000 in a month into like my income account, how do I separate that out into the keep buckets and into, the golden trio and into, the operational expense account? There's a little chart for that. I didn't want to go too deep into that because then that's the numbers and stuff you have to calculate. But that's where I could give you that on the cheat sheet. But that's what I would do weekly, is keep moving your money. Monthly, I would review it. If you've got a nice little system that shows you what's coming in income, what's going out of the OPEX account, and then the golden trio, what did you keep? Those are the 3 most important numbers cash-wise you need to know when it comes to managing money. What came in, what went out, what did I get to put in my pocket, or what did I get to keep? Most people never review that. So then they're making decisions just based on gut feeling and not on what is really the issue that's going on right then and there. So that's number 2 there, is monthly I would move the money. Number 3 on the moving and keeping more, you take profit every quarter from that profit account up to 50%, and you do whatever the heck you want with it. Number 3 is take some of the money and have fun with it. That's why you have a profit account. You're dedicating an account to the fun things that you want from your acquisition of money. Like if you're going out there and busting your butt to get money in the door, the profit account is to make sure it feels worth it. So every quarter, take up to 50%. Also, this is where this is the question. How do you turbocharge profit first with infinite banking? If I told you to set up those bank accounts, some of those bank accounts could be the whole life policies. It could be that you put these into like actual the infinite banking side, and that's what Chris is going to go over. Because if you just heard those words and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that? I'm just like all the red flags. I was a Dave Ramsey fan hardcore for most of my life. And then I was like, I need to look into this. And now I've been doing infinite banking, I think for 4 years now. It has changed my life and how I view money. And I'm like, dang it, I wish I've been doing this since like my early 20s or like as soon as I learned about money. And this is where I want you to be able to, if you're going to build a system like this and keep more of the money, I also want you to have another system, like to be able to turbocharge the profit that you can have from the business or just the day to day, like the tax account. You could turn some of these accounts into the infinite banking system. This is why it integrates so well. So, saying that, to recap, make sure you're pointed in the right direction. Number one, that you know what you need from the business. Number two, set up the system. And that's where I'll give you the cheat sheet so you have all those accounts. And then number three is making sure you keep more of it. So now I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to let Chris take over and he's going to go over the infinite banking portion now. But I want to at least get out there what you needed on the profit first side if you want to keep more of what you make. And this is why, if you've read Profit First or whatnot, this is where you can really know where every dollar is going in your business. So there we go. I just want to make sure there's no questions or anything. Good stuff. Chris, do you want to start screen sharing and take over? And I'll let you get in
Yeah,
here.
I'm amazed you did that all in one breath.
Right? Yes. I have worked on my diaphragm and the breathing, so I know I had to get through it. It's hard to cram 45 minutes into 15 minutes.
I
So we
I
can do
know that, man. Like
it.
I can tell everybody's like almost like, holy cow. I think I just that was a little I mean, you'd had
Drink it
almost
from
like
a
put you on
fire
like
hose,
half speed just to capture all of that, man. That was
right?
incredible.
That's why the
Um,
cheat sheet is so important.
Well, guys, I'll just add, I mean, Profit First for me specifically, I mean, like I first read that book about 10 years ago, and it was very enlightening for me to be able, this is the biggest thing for me is that for me, I realized that I needed to be paid first, right? I mean, that's what Profit First is all about. It's like, how do I make sure I actually get paid versus I'm going to spend all this money. If there's anything left over, then I get paid the leftovers. And that's just not a way to live, especially if you're a business owner. You got to make sure you are focusing on this and have that kind of system. So grateful that David, you're gonna be sharing that one sheet because we definitely need that kind of thing. And I know for me, it's created a lot more stability, safety, and that allows me to be a better producer in my business as a result. So, and thank you, by the way. I've hired you guys recently too to help us in Money Ripples too to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, well, and you showing me, because I've done infinite banking for the last like what 3 years, and then you show me the numbers of like what I could have, could be getting. I'm
Uh-huh.
very glad I made this switch, and I trust Chris, and that's why this is where I've been looking for this type of partnership before to be able to say, okay, you got to have profit first, but like this is how you really turbocharge. So I also appreciate on your side your help for my stuff as well too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, like we said, like this kind of goes together like, peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and chocolate, whatever you want to say,
Easily
right? I mean,
can.
it goes great
Right?
together.
Yeah.
But guys, this is what I'm going to talk about today and just like David did. I mean, David did that in like, literally like I don't know how he breathed through that so quickly. I'm going to also break records as well and kind of going through this quickly and just what do you really need to know about infinite banking? How does that work with profit first? Because where does the profit go, right? Because here's the thing is like we try to do everything we can to get more profit, and then of course how do we keep that profit away from the taxes to be able to get to that profit, because we are going to pay taxes having more profit, but how do we keep more of that money so that maybe we keep it tax free, get a higher yield, almost like a tax free savings account, right? So it can grow tax free, it comes out tax free, protected from predators and creditors. By the way, 100% in most states you can literally store millions of dollars here, not have it get touched. Not to mention, it builds your family's wealth and your legacy, and it can also create a passive income booster where you make money twice, which of course shaves years off your financial goals when you're trying to get to that financial freedom. David has showed you the whole cash flow game, right, with the rat race. I actually thought it was pretty funny when you're showing the game. It matches perfectly with the color of lights in my background.
Yep. Yep.
So wasn't intending that to happen at all. But anyways, oh, it looks like I froze.
Nope, you're all good. I can hear
Can
you.
you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Your picture's just frozen. So you're all good. As long as
Oh, are we good now?
you're good now.
Okay, I just froze. See, I made a comment about Rich Dad Poor Dad, and all of a sudden it froze there. So I was
He
just
heard
commenting about the cash flow game. I have the same lighting as the game colors. I just realized. So
you. Yeah.
all right,
No.
so challenges. Let's talk about the challenges you guys are dealing with right now, right? Because there's a lot happening. For example, we've got the national debt, which of course is growing by trillions uh, in months. Not just takes years to hit $1 trillion more of debt. We've got months of it. So national debt skyrocketing, and that's why we got Doge trying to figure out how to create more issue, more safety there. We've got, of course, the government saying, well, where do we go to get more tax money? Hey, we got your IRAs and 401ks. Why not pillage those and take away the money you worked so hard for and you've wrapped, locked away in prison so then they can go and jailbreak it for themselves versus for you, right? We got interest rates going Amber Heard crazy lately, and we don't know what's going to go up or down. It's obviously higher for longer. And so all our real estate friends are thinking, oh my goodness, like now my whole plans are going out the door and everything else. And not to mention, you guys already seen this now, but Buffett already months ago was starting to sell off his Bank of America stock and Apple stocks last fall. And nobody was talking about this. Nobody was, well, I was, but hardly anybody was mentioning this in the mainstream media saying, wait, Buffett's reducing it to the point where he's got 334 billion in cash. It's so bad that every time I go and do a slide that gets a screenshot, he goes and has more cash. He's stuffing on the sidelines. Wait, he's getting liquid, guys. He's getting ready for something big right now. And even if you look at stocks, I mean, we're seeing stocks, they fell almost 10% in just the last month, depending on which index you're looking at. I think the SP is down 8, the Russell's down about 10 or 11 right now. I mean, we're seeing the market starting to go back towards corrections. And this is why even Vanguard said, yeah, we don't think it's going to do more than 2.8% or so for average for the next 10 years. Guys, you could literally have a money in a CD and make more money in the market potentially over the next 10 years. And not to mention, we got stocks way too high. The Buffett indicator, which talks about GDP versus stock values, is more than double where it should be right now. Do you realize the S&P is supposed to be right around 2,500, not 6,000 or 5,500 or 5,600, depending on the day? We are like more than double where it should be. What would happen if you lost half of your money that you had in those stocks, right? That money is sitting in those stocks, mutual funds, even the Spider Index. He's like, I don't need a financial advisor. Well, good. Yeah, I don't either. I'm an anti-financial advisor, but guess what? Still, what if the market corrected and you lost half your money today? That's a big deal. Well, we can go to banks, but can we trust banks? We got banks like Silicon Valley and Signature banks. They were failing, right? And we got the Fed saying, oh, it's okay. It was only a few banks. Well, is it? Or are there more to come, right? And by the way, where do banks actually want to store their money? Where do they store 15, 20%? Well, guess what? Not in banks. In fact, we've talked to people that literally own banks, say we don't even store our own money or our family's money in our own banks. We actually keep our money separate. We store it over what we're talking about today with this infinite banking. By the way, Walt Disney actually used this to get Disneyland. The only way he was able to get the capital is he put up his second home for sale and he put up money for capital to be able to build the happiest place on earth where you can smile sitting in line for an hour and a half or so, right? And I know Amber's on here too. Amber's like, woohoo, we love Disneyland, right? We also got Ray Kroc with McDonald's. He actually used this very same thing to be able to pay the executives to get the company started. And we've had friends like, Dave and I have a mutual friend, Eddie Wilson. This guy has bought and sold businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars. And he is the third generation. His grandfather was also a president of a bank, taught him this very same strategy about where to store your money. And he's been using this to buy and sell businesses all day long. And where's that been? Infinite banking, right? Which is what we're talking about right here. And just so you know, like David mentioned before, not of them, all of them are made equal. Even if you have somebody who says they're quote unquote an infinite banker, it doesn't mean you actually have the best kind of policy, right? This tax-free savings account. And just so you know what infinite banking is, it's a high yield savings account using whole life insurance. Whole life insurance, yes, has a death benefit, but it also has this tax-free savings account as a part of it that you can store money and use it however, whenever you want, right? But again, there's a lot of costs to come out, which is why guys like Dave Ramsey poo poo all over it. They don't like it. And this is why you get a policy like this. I showed David this a little while ago. Someone actually, an insurance agent said, hey, you work with this particular company. So just so you know, these are the same exact company. It's not about the company per se, it's about the agent and how they design it. Well, this one on the left-hand side, you see they're putting in 60,000 a year. After 3 years, putting in 180,000 bucks, they have a whopping 30,000 bucks right there. With ours, we had about 168,000 bucks. So that means we saved them $138,000 in extra costs that they didn't have to keep paying. Not to mention, by the way, like year one, it's not zero, it's 50,000 bucks. I have it highlighted there on the right. That's actually ours. Same company, just doing it better. That's why I tell people. And the reason I know this is because for me, I bought one of these policies, just like David did. I was a fan. And I bought it in 2006 because all these real estate investors were telling me this is the best place to put your money. So I did it. I just trusted them. Even though I was a financial advisor who taught people never buy whole life insurance because it was a ripoff, because I was a Dave Ramsey, fan back in those days. I did it because I thought, well, these real estate investors, they seem smarter than me. I should probably do it. Well, 2 years later, the recession hits. I'm going broke. I can't keep paying in my case, it was $1,000 a month. That other example was 5,000 a month. I was doing $1,000 a month. I paid in 25 grand. And when I couldn't keep paying in anymore, I lost it because there was no cash in there. So I had to keep paying $1,000 a month or I couldn't keep the policy. So 25 grand and I lost it all. It was like the biggest waste of money. It was almost like the most expensive term plan you can get, but it wasn't term, right? Well, a few months later, I'm talking with a friend of mine and I find out that we could have actually pulled different levers to make this cash rich, to lower the costs so then I have more in this tax-free account. That if I had done that from day one, I would have never lost all that money. I would have kept every bit of it and made a lot more of it. When I confronted the agent about it, I said, listen, I asked you point blank. I said, are there levers I can pull or something we can do to make this better? You told me no. I found out you lied to me. It's not true. And after we debated back and forth about why his way was supposed to be the way you should do it anyways, you should have bigger death benefits and yada yada, he finally just said, Chris, I did it that way because I couldn't afford to cut my commissions. I said, there's the truth. And as a result, I'm never sending another friend or family member again. And this is what's happened for me because ever since then, guys, like I've every time I try to find somebody who does know how to do it the best way, all of a sudden it gets to this conflict of interest about them having to earn more commissions because that's all the way they make money. But for me, I've actually been able to retire twice by the time I was 39. I don't need the money. And so I made it my mission. I said, listen, if I can't find somebody to do it for us, we're going to do it ourselves where we can design these plans so that it gets the best bang for your buck, the best ROI possible, which is why we call it max ROI, infinite banking, right? Because we want to do that. Now, who's this not for? One, it's definitely not for anybody who's either one, bad health, it's not going to work great, or even if you can get qualified, it's going to be really expensive. Two, if you're into your 70s, it gets a little bit tougher, even though I'm literally working on somebody who's in their about 76 years old right now. Just so you know, it does get really expensive. So we may not use this as an investment vehicle, but it could still be used potentially. So one, if you're bad health. Two, if you're well into your 70s or 80s, it may be a little bit different strategy for you. Or three, if you're paycheck to paycheck. If you literally cannot rub two nickels together because you don't have any profit first coming in, well then, this you might just be better off doing a term insurance policy. By the way, bonus for you here, if you're in that situation, you can get a convertible term insurance policy where you can convert it to whole life to this infinite banking policy at any time, and you don't have to requalify your health. I've literally had people that got denied insurance, but because they had this policy first, they were able to actually convert it at the highest health rating possible, even though the company knew they had things in their health that could actually would make them terminal. One of them literally had a brain tumor, and they still had to give him a policy. So there are ways around this. You could still get a start in this kind of thing. By the way, even if you're older or if you're in bad health, guess what? What if somebody else is younger or in better health? You could get a policy on them, family members, business partners, anybody who might have a financial self-interest in, you can actually get a policy on these people. I actually had a guy who was a 55-year-old dentist that was weighing about 300 plus pounds. And he said, Chris, I know it's going to be expensive for me, but could I do this on my wife who's in great health? And by the way, she's also 3 years younger than me. I said, yes, all the better. And so what did he do? He actually started putting in over 100 grand a year contributing into his plan so he could start using that cash to go and create more passive income with his real estate. Now, here's some of the big benefits. I mentioned tax-free. It's tax-free now and later, much like a Roth IRA, but without all the dumb rules. So you're actually able to put in after-tax dollars, it grows tax-free, and you can access it tax-free. And by the way, when you pass away, that money also goes to your family tax-free. So now you're protected from the IRS, right? But like I mentioned before, there's not all these dumb rules with limits and penalties. You don't have like the 10% withdrawal penalty. Like I just got done talking to a client today. He's 47, just like I am. He says, yeah, I've got this 401k now. I just, got laid off. What do I, what can I do with this? I said, well, you could try to get to it, but you're going to have to pay tax on it and potentially penalties too, because of that money being locked into your 401ks and IRAs. They don't have those issues with this. You can access this money whenever you want. You could literally retire young, like I did, using this kind of plan. And as well, the limits. Because if you make too much money, they'll say, oh, well, you can't do a Roth IRA, which is that tax-free similarity to this, right? But on top of that, even if you can do Roth IRA, they tell you, oh, you can't put more than 6,000 a year in or 7,000 a year into it. Okay, well, this I can put in up to 25% of my stated gross annual income. That's your total gross income before you get all the write-offs as a business owner, right? Which is awesome because I had one client who was a real estate investor. His tax return said he only made 25,000 a year, but he was pulling in $1 million a year. So what did we say when we did the application? We said, hey, this guy literally grosses $1 million a year. That allowed him to be able to put away $250,000 a year into this that he can now shelter from taxes and lawsuits and creditors, which is that next point, right? Protected from creditors and lawsuits. They can't get to it. They cannot touch it in most states. Also safer than the bank. Insurance companies go out of business less often than banks. And even for the few that do happen to go out of business, they are required by law to buy what's called reinsurance, which is a global insurance company that insures them against their own loss. So if something happens that, of course, that insurance company happens to go out of business, which is again very rare. If it happens, those reinsurance companies step in, cover all your cash and your death benefit. You're protected. So it's actually safer than a bank. But guess what? Right now they're paying about 6% a year tax free. So not only are you earning more than a high yield savings account, but now it's tax free. So you don't get taxed on that high yield savings account like you do on a normal high yield savings account right now. I mentioned it protects your family, creates a legacy, and you get access to cash right now, which is what's so important about this. Here's some quick ways you can use it. One, you can use it as an emergency fund. So if you're going to have money sitting around, and this is the one thing that I heard all the time a few years ago with inflation going through the roof, everybody said, well, I can't put in my savings account. I'm going to lose the interest. So they try to throw it in the stock market, right? And that only works for so long until it doesn't, right? Or people would say, well, maybe I'll put in a high yield savings account. Well, now the high yield savings accounts are coming down. They went from over 5%. Now they're coming down to like 3.5%. Well, my money only went up in this plan. It went from like 5.75 up to 6% and possibly could go even higher in the coming years because the interest rates are higher. So I store my money here because think of this. My wife wants to keep about 400 grand in cash. We don't touch it. That's for our family to protect us in case we have a whole entire year or more actually, if we can't, if we have zero income coming in. Well, if I kept $400,000 in my bank account, which is now earning 0.05% on their savings account, I would earn a whopping $200 a year. But guess what? After I pay taxes on that, I might walk away with maybe 140, 150 bucks, right? Well, here, if I keep 300 grand of that 400 grand, I keep that in my life insurance, and that's money we don't touch, we don't invest or do anything with. Well, now it's earning 6% tax free. 300,000 making 6% means I make $18,000 a year tax free versus maybe walking away with 100 or 200 bucks, in the bank account. Even if I have a high yield savings account, there's no way it's going to compete with that. So this is a good place I can store my money. You can store profit here, literally, and have still access to the money. It takes about a week to get to the money, just so you're aware. So I still keep money in the bank. I still keep money in high yield savings accounts, but I use this as my lion's share of reserves. You can use this as collateral. This is what Walt Disney did when he wanted to get the money from ABC. They came with rest money if he put up his insurance cash value, not the death benefit, but the cash as collateral. I actually had a client where he wanted to cash this money out to buy a building, a real estate building, free and clear. And I said, well, instead of doing that, why don't you ask the bank to use this as extra collateral with the building? And what happened? They dropped his interest rate down to so low, his payment for almost a 400,000 loan was only about 1,800 a month on a building. It was like almost 0% interest. And once he was able to get to the point where he built out the building, he's got a renter in it. So now he's living in there, or not living, but he's using his business in there rent free. Guess what's cool? He was able to now take it and refinance it. And then when he refinanced it, they just took the lien off. So they didn't change the terms. They kept the payment the same, the interest rate the same, everything stayed the same. They just took the lien off his life insurance. So then he now had a better interest rate than he would never have gotten had he just done a real estate loan. Maybe people talk about tax-free retirement income. Some people actually use this so they retire early, having tax-free income before they have to wait for their stupid 401ks and IRAs to kick in, or even the Roth IRAs, right? Kids savings. More and more people are using this instead of their 529 plans because if the market goes down right before your kid goes to college, you might have gone from a 4 years of savings for college to 3 years. And how is that going to create stress for your family, right? We've got that kind of thing. We got people now are storing it here because now they can use this money to invest in real estate and do different things instead of letting it gamble in the stock market and just hope and pray their kid retire or graduates at the right time. Cash flowing investments. This is the part that's really cool, right? Because Buffett says if you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're going to work until you die. We all love leverage. As business owners, leverage is like the magic word, isn't it? We always want to create more with less. This is what we're doing with life insurance. See, you can withdraw money from this account, but what you'll hear many people talk about, even on social media, they'll say, no, instead, what if we borrow from the insurance company? We don't pull the money out. The money's still in there earning their tax-free 6% plus dividends. But what if we were to use that as collateral and let the insurance company give us this really no monthly payment interest? It still has interest though. They're charging you interest, but it's like this no monthly payment loan on our money. So they're using our money as collateral, but then they're giving us this low interest loan that we can then use to go invest in our businesses, which gives us another tax write-off on the interest. And or two, we can go use this in buying things like real estate. So, and then we take the cash flow from that, the profits from our business, and use that to be able to pay back in, build up our cash faster and faster. So, to give you an example, I use this as like $1 million building that you want to get a small apartment complex. Say you put $250,000 down, and the cash flow after you pay all your costs is $2,500 a month. Now, normally, if you were to just drain your savings account, now you're taking this $2,500 a month to build it back up to finally earn your little piddly 0.nothing% interest. Well, I doubled my interest rate. I said, what if I earn 0.1% on my account? But remember, on my savings account, I have to pay taxes. Over 9 years, that's $270,000 going in over 9 years, right? 30,000 a year times 9 years is 270 grand. How much would I earn in interest after I pay taxes on my savings account? $1,200. I earn a whopping $1,200 of interest over those 9 years. Anybody excited about that? Okay, what if I use my policy? Now, this policy has still insurance costs coming out of it, right? It also has interest being charged by the insurance company that I'm still using this cash flow coming in to pay down that line of credit as I pull the cash out and then paid it down. What was my net return even after all those costs? $126,000. Guys, I'm actually using my own policy. I use this as an example here, which I write my policy just like we write everybody's policies. Some of you guys could actually get better returns than I would get in this situation because you're younger, or you're a woman or something like that, where women live longer than I do. So all those kind of things, right? I would have 126,000. What would you rather have? $1,200 interest or 126,000 of profit? What could you do with that money? How much more could you invest having that money now? How much faster could you create passive income to be able to reinvest those returns and that money faster so you get out of the rat race faster? That is how you make money twice, guys. So that's the big picture, is that, again, when you start to learn this and start to be profitable and you get this education, use your max ROI infinite banking policy to then invest in these passive income investments. You keep cycling it and building and compounding income, not just compounding interest. You compound income to make more money. And that's why we've had dentists, like this guy, he actually saved $2.25 million by changing from a traditional infinite banking plan, which wasn't the worst one, by the way. It was actually a decent one, but still we're able to save him $2.25 million over 20 years. How much more money could he create that way too, right? So I won't go into all this. I know we got lots of testimonials, but the big thing is this: is get rid of the banks, unbank yourself, get rid of that tie to this 0.nothing% taxable savings account that is subjected to lawsuits and creditors, right? And stay away from stock markets that can go up or down with the whims of whatever Elon Musk or Donald Trump's going to tweet that day. Instead, get your money in a place that's secure, it's certain, and it's always guaranteed to grow. In fact, I even had a 17-year-old dentist tell me, he said, Chris, I wish I'd done this sooner, because right now, all the money I put into real estate, I lost some money in certain places. But this is the one place I never ever had to worry about. This is the one place I was guaranteed to always have my money and my profits. So, all right. So, David, I know I actually went a little bit over. I think I went about 20 minutes there instead of
All
15. So, I
good.
apologize.
You had way more of the slides than I did, so totally understandable. But and I probably spoke way too quick. So if you need the record, we're going to be sending the recording out to everyone. But at the end here, this is where too, if you just heard both of those together, I taught profit first, which is really about like if you're going to make it, you need to know how to keep it. Because what Chris said was it's not a good time to start infinite banking unless you actually have profitability. Like if you're living deal to deal, paycheck to paycheck, month to month, week to week, we got to get you out of that first. And if you need that, that's what the profit first side is. And then if you're using profit first, because I see some of my friends on here, John Morey, and John Morey's a big fan of infinite banking as well too. But if you're on the profit first side and you've started to put those bank accounts in place, like you can start to replace some of the bank accounts, like profit, which you don't withdraw every single week. Like operational expenses should stay at a bank because you've got to constantly have money come in and out of it. But like a profit account or your business reserves, or if it's your tax savings account, which you might touch quarterly or annually, depending on your setup or if you're W-2 or not, it's like that's where some of those I would transfer to a policy versus this. This is why it's so powerful in being able to use this in your business life as well too, and whether it's personal or business. So that's where on this side, if you need a profit first and doing that, Chris, I'm going to give the link for mine. If you have the link for your thing as well too, if people want to be able to reach out or whatnot, because on our side, we have a fractional CFO company. If you need help, we implement profit first. We make sure you also have a good bookkeeping system process person. We make sure you also have a dashboard that you go over the numbers and high level and forecasting and making sure you know where your numbers are going if you need that in the business space. If you don't, I'm still going to drop the link because I give you a copy of my book, Profit First. I actually wrote it for real estate investing. So whether you need the real estate investing or not, the core principles are there and a cheat sheet. So no matter what industry you're in, or if you're just need this in your personal life, the Profit First, I'm going to put this in the chat box real quick here. And then Chris, I'd like for you to make sure you get that. And then at the end here, we'll do some questions. If anyone has them, you can start to put them in the comments as well. And then Chris, do you want to give yourself a quick plug as well at the end here if people want to reach out to you as on the infinite banking side?
Yeah, I'll make it easy on you guys. Like, go ahead and just email if you guys have questions on this infinite banking side. Just email me directly, chris@moneyripples.com. And then just put in the subject line profit first and
Cool.
say, like, I want to learn more about this. How does this all work? We got stuff we can give you, even like more information, go deeper down this rabbit hole. So, yeah, just do chris@moneyripples.com. Email me directly and just say profit first in the subject heading.
John with the win. John's my assistant. He put the email in the chat, so you could just scrape it and put it in there if you want to reach out to Chris. Thank you, John. John has read my mind for the past 10 years. I've been working with John for 10 years now, so he reads my
Wow.
mind before I even do anything. But does anyone have any questions that we could answer, whether it's on the profit first side? I know I flew through that, and it's a system, so you're probably going to need some follow up or get the recording to listen to it again on half speed, like Chris said on that first portion, or on the infinite banking. If we can help you in any way, these are just two systems that when they work together can get you a lot of benefits that you might not be getting now. You'll need the recording, yes. And like I said, use one of those apps that puts it on half speed there. Good stuff. We'll make sure we send the recording out to everyone, especially if you were here live. We want to get that out to you. Any other
Sure.
any questions that we can help with? You got us here live in Zoom. Chris, do I need to oh, Larry, do I need to be making a profit to do profit first? That's great. That's where a lot of people start. I'm like, I can't even do profit first because I'm not making a profit. That's where if you are not making a profit now, it's more of the mindset of I need to stop the habits with money that got me into this situation. Profit first is not just an accounting hack or a cash flow hack. It helps and it helps you be streamlined, but ultimately it changes your habits with money. You actually are now in the game of money to win and you know how to win versus just, I think I'm doing my best and like as long as more comes in, I'll be okay. But that's like the death knell. My background's real estate investing. Last And 10 years ago, I was part of a company where we scaled it to 25 deals a month, but we were spending 26 worth of those deals out the door. So it's like, who cares? It really doesn't matter how much you bring in if you don't know or have the skill to keep it. So I tell people this all the time. If you know you're going over what you bring in, a system can help you to start unwinding it, even if you just do 99% to OPEX, the OPEX account, and 1% to like the other ones, the keep accounts. Like, can you start somewhere? You know, can you set up one bank account from this? Like, if you know that this is a struggle, then start where you can to build better habits with your money. Any other questions that I can help with? That Chris?
Well, David, I know you wrote a book with Mike McCallowitz called Profit First for Real Estate Investors, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, because of my background, and that's where you get that on that cheat sheet there. If you download it, then you'll get that book specifically. It's part of that link
Oh,
because
nice.
a lot of people like the cheat sheet if you're an entrepreneur because it's the one pager. Then if you need to go deeper, there's the book there for a reference guide. Like, okay, what does this mean in the cheat sheet? It kind of gives you just a little point of reference there. So yeah, and I really do believe, Chris, we need to write a book together in the near future here of like profit first plus infinite banking because it's
I think that
just
would be awesome.
so hand in glove um,
I don't
for
know if anybody else would want to read that or not, but you guys let us know. You think that's a
yeah,
good idea? Have a profit first for infinite
profit first
banking?
plus infinite banking. We're thinking about doing it. I've thought about it for a while. I just need to know if people would actually read it, use it, utilize it. You're already geeking out about it. Good stuff. Oh man. Yeah, it's just like we want to marry these two concepts together because they go so well.
Mhm.
Yes, for sure. Let's go. Okay. Might have to foray back into the book world. Has anyone written a book? I'm so interested. Now that we've got some time here, has anyone attempted to or written their own book?
I know we do for a fact. We got somebody on here that's a writer.
Yeah. Who's that?
That would be Tess. Yep.
Hess? Awesome.
Yep.
Then Tess knows. Tess knows the book world is a completely different animal than like
Mhm.
the entrepreneur space or like job space or anything that I've ever gone through before. So it is something that's a lift, but it's like one of the most rewarding things once you've done it and like got it and out there. So Tess, I hope you feel that like if you've actually written it and got it published and it's out there. You have one in the works. That's awesome, Larry. It's like so many people have such good ideas and then they get to distill it into a book and you get to have that knowledge from years and years worth of experience. So okay, Chris, I think we might have to collaborate more on this and see going down the book path.
I know some people are trying to wait for me to get mine out because I have one that's literally in the works right now. I've got over 100 pages of it written so far. So I'll definitely have to be my next project.
Okay, cool. Well, that the book is the heavy lift. So
Yeah.
awesome. Any other questions we can help with before we just end this thing? And we'll just land the plane here. Well, appreciate you giving up your time. I think someone's trying to enter. They're going to have a rude awakening when we shut it down here in a second. So, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good rest of your whatever day this is, Tuesday, and make sure to get those cheat sheets and stuff. Have a good day.